Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Summer School. Today, we are here with a very special guest who I've had the pleasure of seeing and hanging out with and, meeting in person for the past 2 years at WPPI. And I'm surprised we haven't seen each other outside of that. But I feel like my pregnancy, I just kind of like stopped going to events. But it was so fun to get to know her. And I feel like she is just a well of wisdom, has been in the industry for quite some time. So I'm really excited for this conversation. And in case you don't know, I kind of ask podcast guests, like, what is something that makes you passionate? And what she answered will be really fun. So, we're going to be talking about sustainability, profitability, how to keep doing this for years to come. So, anyways, so excited to introduce Lindsay. Lindsay, say hi and just tell everyone like a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here, Summer. Thanks so much for having me. So my name is Lindsay Coulter. I'm based out of a city called Waterloo, which is about an hour outside of Toronto in Canada. Um, and yeah, we met at WPPI, but I feel like I have been aware of you because you are incredible on social media. I think my assistant a couple of years ago was like, check out this girl's Instagram. And I was like, yeah, she's cool. So
You're too kind.
I knew about you before you knew about me. I saw you across the room at WPPI in Las Vegas, and I thought, I'm going to be friends with her.
This is our like meet cute.
But yeah, I'm a wedding and portrait photographer. I started this in 2012 when I met my husband, Taylor Jackson, who's also a photographer. And he was a wedding photographer at the time. I was like just a university student. And he basically said, well, I'm busy every single weekend, so pick up the camera and learn how to be a second photographer at the very least. And yeah, I kind of realized that this was more of the path that I wanted to go than the route that I was doing in school, which I think is a common thing when you're 22 years old. You're trying to figure things out, what you like, what you don't like, and you take bits and pieces of the things that you're learning and experiencing. And that's sort of how I ended up here. So yeah,
Did you end up graduating
that's me
or
in a
did you
nutshell.
drop
I
out?
did. I did
Wow.
graduate. If it was up to me, I probably would not. Well, hard to say. I like to finish things. When I start things, I like to finish them.
That's good.
It is good. Sometimes it can be detrimental because I follow things through that I should have learned to fail faster, kind of.
Hmm.
But university, my parents actually both worked at the university that I went to, so there was no question that I was finishing. My mom like had my grades pulled up before I did, so
Hmm.
it was a family affair. I was also in my third year of a 4-year program, so it would have been somewhat crazy for me to drop out at that point. So yeah, I basically did my entire final year online.
Hmm.
I had done enough of my required courses, and then I finished my last year of school online. And I'm happy I did it. I'm really grateful that I had the experience of doing it. And it does feel good to have finished something and to feel accomplished in that, whether college or university is your thing, it doesn't really matter. But to feel like you've accomplished something that you set out to do, I think
Yeah.
is it's a good habit to get into. And certainly some of the things that I learned in school have carried through, whether I'm using my environmental studies degree or
I
not.
was
I
about to
don't
ask what the degree is. I'm like, was it like a business degree? Like, that would be
You
great.
would think that would be awesome. No, I was in co-op. So that was the one thing that's really cool. The University of Waterloo is like known for having a really incredible co-op program. It's like known
Hmm.
around the world. So basically you do a term in class and then a term in your career path in something.
Cool.
So that was how I learned that I did not want to be an environmentalist because I had such a different idea of what being working in environments and in geography would have looked like. But really what it looks like is working in a corporate setting most of the time and working in settings that a lot of people around you are not very happy.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I did, I was working at a hydro company in our area, which you can imagine like the sustainability officer or somebody working in sustainability is not like a super popular person in a hydro
Yeah.
company. You're like the one person telling people to conserve energy while everybody makes a living based on them not conserving energy. So there was like two of us in the department and it was basically like a government mandated thing. But every day I went into work, my happiness and my outcome of my day relied on how other people were
Hmm.
feeling, right? And that was one thing that I really realized that I did not want. I didn't want to work in an atmosphere where people were miserable every day. That just seems like a given, but it's something a lot of people deal with every single day at work. And I
100%.
realized that I wanted to have a lot more control over how I spent my time. I was also like working in a restaurant, and I was teaching piano, and I was teaching yoga, and I was in school doing like online classes still. So I was doing like a million and one things, just trying to figure it all out. Um, I was very close to burning out probably around that time when I was 20 years old, but I learned a lot at a really, really fast pace, which was
No,
fun.
yeah. I mean, creds to you for at least finishing. I was that person when you said, that you were already your 3rd year in, like, why would you quit? I quit. I was
Did you?
like,
Well, actually, as I was saying it, I was like, I mean, hell, if you're going to quit 3 years in is probably actually when you would quit, because that's when you realize, like, this is not what I need. I'm not doing this anymore. So as I was saying it, I was like, I actually don't know that I believe in that, because 3rd year is probably when you would say, I've had enough of this.
it was like my 4th or 5th college, and by the time I had transferred that many times, like, I ended up at, like, a communications major at that point. The original degree I was going for was cool, but then by the
Yeah.
time I was in, like, an online school, like, across the country, it was like, "Okay, with a comm degree." I'm sorry for anyone listening with a comm degree, but, like, I could probably get any job with a comm degree that I could get without a comm
Yeah.
degree. Do you know what I mean? So, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I think the big thing with degrees, and like, I never want to be the person that says a degree is useless, but I speak in a lot of high schools. I'm part of this like speakers bureau that goes in and speaks in high
Amazing.
schools. It's really fun. And I remember being a high school student being told that a creative career path wasn't realistic. And
Yeah.
so I was always told that it wasn't profitable or sustainable to go into the arts, even though I actually went to an arts specific high school. Like, you had to audition to go to my high school for the arts.
Wow.
And even in that high school, I was told in my like career studies class to find something more realistic. And
Hmm.
so literally that's how I ended up going into environment, because it was like in the era when everybody started talking about global warming and climate change. And I was like, well, people are going to really care about that. I mean, if I had a glass or a crystal ball, I could have looked into the future and seen that people actually truly still don't care about that
Hmm.
as much as we should. But uh, I wanted to be that person that goes into schools and tells people, like, yeah, it's actually a pretty reasonable career for you to have. You just have to have the skill set in business and marketing and the mindset to go into it alongside the creative side. And I think that's why most photographers fail, most creatives fail, because they love taking photos and they're very good at that. And they neglect the business side and then end up burning out. So, yeah, that's sort of that ends up being where I am like the most passionate. That's why I think, education or no education, going to photography school or business school, whatever path it is, at the end of the day, it's just you and your business.
Mhm.
And you have to decide whether this is like a 3-year thing you're going to test out, which is totally fine, or whether this is a lifelong career that you're hoping is going to, buy you a nice car and take you on trips and have like a really nice life.
What would you say at what point in your career did you start getting, like, more passionate about what's funny is your environmental thing was on, like, sustainability, and then technically now you're talking about sustainability in a whole different way within photography. At what point did you have, like, a burnout season where you're like, "Oh, shoot, I need to figure this out so I don't end up quitting like a lot of photographers?" Or have you just
Yeah.
always been passionate about it and you've had a good holistic mindset this whole time?
Well, I've definitely not had a good holistic mindset. So I wish I could say that. For anybody who doesn't know, my husband Taylor, he's been a photographer for oh gosh, I don't know, like 20 years. Like, he started when he was like 17,
Hmm.
shooting bands and weddings and stuff. So when I first got into the business, I had a direct referral source. So I did not start out slow. Like, my first year
Yeah.
in business, I shot over 30 weddings. My second year, I shot 55. And then I shot like 50 to 60 weddings every year until 2020.
Hmm.
And it was fun. Don't get me wrong. It was really fun. I made like a buttload of money, and I had a blast, and I learned so much. And I can't like fault myself for doing that, because that's what I knew. Taylor was shooting 50, 60 weddings a year, and truthfully, if he could have replicated himself and put himself in two places, he had enough inquiries probably to be doing 100 plus. But thankfully, I was like the built in referral source, and our styles were complementary but different enough that if somebody wasn't booking him, they were booking me, and vice versa. So it was like a really nice, like, if people listening to this that are starting out and struggling to get 10 bookings, I'm sorry, I know that sounds like I had the easy path. I did. So I think looking back at that time, thinking I could never do that now, that's probably true, but I could never do that now because I wouldn't want to do that now. So 2020 was, for most of us, I think the like light going off year for me, because I finally had a chance to slow down. It
Hmm.
was forced, obviously, and I wasn't doing it from like a healed place. I was doing it because literally I wasn't allowed to work. So for anybody who's listening that's not familiar with Ontario, we had like the most strict lockdown measures
Hmm.
outside of Italy for the longest period of time throughout all of COVID. So we were completely locked down with no ability to work for the majority of 2020, 2021, and then into 2022. So in
Wow.
2020, I had 50, I think I had 56 weddings booked, and I had to cancel all of them
Hmm.
practically. And that was sort of the light bulb moment for me, because I got to see what the alternative looked like to going at this breakneck speed, and I thought, oh, it's actually kind of nice. So I was spending time going to my family's cottage, which I hadn't done since I was 21, before I started my business.
Hmm.
And I would see my family on long weekends when they were all at the cottage instead of working 3 weddings that weekend. And I just spent time in nature, which has like always been a thing that mattered to me. It always was a thing that I wanted to do, but I wasn't able to do because any nice day was a work day, basically. Um, so yeah, it was not a thing that I would like to do again, but it was a really great pause, and it was a great opportunity for me to take a look at how much I was working and how little I felt that I had to show for it financially.
Yeah.
Um, 2020 was a really great reminder of why we should have investments as photographers, and why we shouldn't just rely on the next gig coming in to pay your bills or to pay yourself if something should go wrong. So for many, many reasons, 2020 was that moment for me. We were very fortunate. Our government took very good care of us, and we were able to get like subsidies, and there were business grants, and you could get loans. And every couple of weeks, you could literally just go to the government and be like, I need $2,000, and they would give it to you. It was a little scary because if you had to claim that on your income tax, you could end up having to owe a lot of money in taxes.
True.
But it was at least like a moment that I could breathe and take a look back and be like, is this fun? Am I enjoying this? And the good thing was the answer was yes. I actually was really enjoying photography. Unlike a
Hmm.
lot of photographers that took a pause and they were like, I want out. This is not fun for me. I took
Yeah.
a pause and said, yeah, this is fun, but I have to make some changes. And that was the first year that I started to really put focus onto my family business and my branding businesses. So
Hmm.
now I feel like I have 3 full-time jobs between my wedding photography business, my family, and branding. And that's solely because of the time that I took away from marketing weddings, because what was the point in marketing a thing that I couldn't do, and put it all into building a portfolio around the things that when we were allowed to work, we were allowed to do family and commercial work. So commercial work was the first thing we were allowed to do. And then slowly we were allowed to like meet in groups of 5 people outside. So I started doing more family work, and I just sort of started building out those sides of my business. And I realized that for a number of reasons, I really like it. It's fun. It's nice to diversify the type of work you do, and it makes you better at all kinds of areas of photography when you just try doing weird and different things that are unfamiliar. And then it's also just important to diversify the amount of income that you have coming from multiple sources. And, we've always talked about that in any sort of finance world. But when it comes to photography, we're told the opposite. You're told like niche down, get into the smallest niche possible. And I'm like, oh, that's not for me anymore.
Yeah. Were you always, even when you were doing 56 weddings, also doing families and commercial, or was genuinely COVID that made you think, Ooh, I should probably do this.
So it was very funny. I got this studio, the one that I'm in. I got this studio in 2019, right before
Hmm.
COVID. Like crazy timing. I was so happy that I did have the space because my husband and I both work from home otherwise. So that would have been terrible. I love him, but it would have been so hard. But in getting the studio, I realized, oh, well, now I have a space that I can do headshots and branding and some more commercial stuff. So actually, February of 2020, I had done like a mini session sort of marathon of branding photos in the
Hmm.
studio, which was like just incredibly fortunate timing that I had a little bit of a portfolio going into COVID. So I had started doing it. And then families, I was doing if my wedding clients had babies or if my wedding clients wanted extended family photos. It was never anything that I really marketed heavily. Actually, I did like at Christmas or whenever I
Yeah.
needed some money, I would do like, I'll just do family sessions. That's easy. And I was charging like $125 for a session, which is so embarrassing because it wasn't a thing that I cared about. It wasn't a thing that I felt like I was good at. Didn't have enough of a portfolio to feel confident in it.
Hmm.
And I had a family photographer from our area reach out to me and say, "You charge like $4,000 or $5,000 for a wedding to start, and you're charging $125 for family photos." Like, frankly, she was just pissed, but it did
Yeah.
help me really. Like, it really did help me to have somebody say that. I don't recommend going around and doing that to people. They're not going to probably respond very well. But if somebody wants to be my friend and tell me that my work is better than the rate that I'm charging, I'm never going to be mad at that. That's kind, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I took that to heart and realized the reason why I wasn't charging enough was because I didn't feel like the service I was providing to those clients stood up to the service I provided my wedding clients.
Hmm.
I wasn't giving them like styling guides. I wasn't giving them location recommendations. I was like sending them 3 emails if they were lucky and then gallery delivery, you know? So I realized if I want to do this properly, I need to put the same level of care and effort into the, Lindsay Coulter families brand as I
Yeah.
put into the Lindsay Coulter weddings brand.
That's amazing. Would you say, as far as sustainability, like what would be the thing that drives you the most in like what to you, how am I trying to word this? What to you can help other photographers like build a more sustainable business? Would you say it's diversifying your income? Would you say it's outsourcing? Like what would you say would be the things that you would suggest people like get into if they're trying to also approach like a more sustainable mindset in their business like you are?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that's most important is figuring out like what your values are in your business. So I feel like we talk about this a lot at like once you get to a level of your photography business where you feel comfortable, you start to unpack why did I get here and how did I get here? Because it's not like you think of when you're 18 years old and you're thinking, how would I start a business? I'm not writing out a business plan to bring to
Yeah.
the bank to ask them for $1 million loan. Like I'm just not. We bootstrapped this thing. I bought my first $3,000 camera. You like buy a crappy lens from somebody used. Like it's all pieced together. And then you can sort of look back at it retroactively. So my sort of recommendation to photographers that are wanting to look at things from a more sustainable standpoint is maybe figure out what your driving force is. At least if you can know that, then if the business as a whole and the plan isn't quite there and it feels messy and chaotic, then I think that it becomes a little bit easier and a little more clear if you know what's important to you. And a lot
Hmm.
of that can be personal because we are generally solo business owners. It's going to be informed by what you want. So even like back in the days of me doing my co-op, I realized that I didn't want to work in a bad environment. I
Yeah.
didn't want to work in a place that other people were miserable and therefore I got to be miserable too. And I wanted financial freedom. I wanted time freedom. I like basically wanted like the sun, the moon, and the stars. And I thought I'm going to make that happen for myself. And I had enough audacity to believe that I could. And I guess I kind of did. So I think if you look at it instead of looking, back like I have done. If you have enough years, then sure, look back and see what you've enjoyed and what you haven't enjoyed. But looking forward, what kind of a life do you envision? What do you picture? That sort of future forecasting of
Hmm.
what do I want my days to look like? Like if I want to be able to go for lunch with a girlfriend and close my laptop and pick this up later at 7 o'clock at night, that sounds nice to me. And that might sound terrible to some people. So generally for me, I like to make money that feels sustainable, and I'm not stressed about where the next job is coming from. I still do like
Mm.
a happy dance and I'm still so stoked. Like nobody's ever totally dead inside and they get a contract signed and they're like, oh, don't care. But I wanted to get to the point that I wasn't already
Relying.
having, yeah, and I wasn't already having spent in my mind the money that's coming in, right? And
Mm.
that honestly takes a long time. It does. It's not something that happens overnight. So charging enough money, but also investing enough money and working really hard to stay out of debt has been a really big thing for me because of that sort of values driven thing. But I also really want to have fun. And I think that
Yeah.
that's a thing that gets slightly overlooked in the industry. Like we just think that that's a thing that's going to just come because our jobs are fun, and they are, but we can make them fun or we can make them stressful for both ourselves and for our clients, for our families, for everybody. And as boring as it sounds, I think the systems that we have in place allow for that fun and that freedom to come in. So like you mentioned, outsourcing is a huge thing. I personally have tried, like, I think every outsourcing editing option that exists out there, whether it be a company or an individual that I like literally had in my office that I was training them side by side. I've tried so many different things. I've tried outsourcing overseas. The only thing that ever really worked for me was using Imagine. So like actually doing my editing through AI. That's been a huge shift for me personally. And that actually came in 2020. So what I realized was I was basically only able to continue and keep up the family and branding side of things because of the AI editing help that I had. If I had to go
Mm.
back to full time shooting 30 plus weddings, and then I also had these two new streams of my business, like I would have burnt out so fast.
Mm.
So you can't just build them all up and then expect that you, as your own person and individual, are going to be able to keep up with the demands of the communication and the editing and delivery and all of that, right? So systems are super important for me. I have like a very, very basic system for workflow tracking that I use, and it's literally a Google sheet that I use
Mm.
that has my client's name, their date. So I have two different versions, one for weddings and one for portraits. I just call it like other, just all kinds of portraits. But for weddings, it's like my client's name, date, their package, generally like just their package price. That's a really good thing to have. Like a lot of photographers don't have that at a glance. They just don't
Mm.
know how much money they're making that year. And that's a huge weight off your shoulders. So when you have those moments and you're laying in bed and sleeping or trying to go to sleep and your anxiety kicks in and says, I'm gonna be broke and I'm never gonna book another thing again. You can just look at it and know actually you have more on the books now than you would have if you had like two full-time jobs, probably. So it's
Yeah.
okay to chill. So it's just like a very simple thing. And then the workflow literally goes through every step up until delivery. And
Mm.
it includes like, I keep track of the number of images that I shot on each camera. So that's another thing. I figure out the things that stress me out and kept me up at night. And I now keep track of them. I keep track of like the card number that I actually shot the thing on.
Mm.
Um, all of that from like, okay, has it been called? Yes. Has it been edited? Yes. Has it been delivered? Yes. And straight through to sort of the end process. And that's huge. But whatever your system is, it doesn't really matter if it's that or if it's a CRM, but just take the 3 hours and set something up, and it probably is 3 hours realistically, because there's some mental time that you need to take to actually workshop it with yourself of like, what do I like? What do I want to do here? Do I
Mm.
want to use, Honeybook? Do I want to use, you know, like, I don't care if it's a pen and paper. God, that's probably the wrong way to do it, but I don't care if that's what you would do. That's actually what I used to do. It was a notebook with like a name, a date, where I was at in the editing process, right? And
Yeah.
that's fine. You start there and then you work up to, to something bigger. But yeah, I think that those things are really important. honestly, sustainability, it comes in like literally every aspect of the business. It really does. It's like, it's about how well you take care of yourself physically and emotionally. You know, like I started a few years ago paying into a private health insurance thing, which in
Hmm.
Canada, like we obviously have really great healthcare, but
Yeah.
we don't get like things like massage and chiropractors paid for.
Hmm.
And I just realized like, okay, if I'm going to keep doing this, I need to work out more and I need to pay more attention to how my body's feeling. Because one of the things that I do hear from uh, elder millennial photographers an awful lot is, I don't know how you do that. My body is dead. And I'm like, well, your body would be dead whether you were sitting at a table all day long or you were running around with 30 pounds on your back, because if you don't move, that's what's going to happen. But it's
Yeah.
going to get a lot worse if you have a bag on your back with so much weight. And I want to be able to, without questioning it, crouch down or like stand up really quickly and get a shot. Like, I don't want to be thinking, oh, is that going to hurt? And so I've just sort of tried to future plan for those things by paying attention to what people a little bit older than me have told me has burnt them out. And I've kind of just been paying attention to that, probably out of fear and anxiety, honestly, for a really long time.
No, yeah. I mean, I even think about the fact that we just started watching this like survival show. It's called Alone. I think so. I don't know. It's like literally just like straight survival show, kind of like Naked and
I love
Afraid,
that.
but like without the naked part.
Without the nudity.
And like way more survival skills. Like they straight up just like put them in the Arctic and you just hope you survive. But anyways, all of that to
That's
say,
wild.
most of those people are like in their 50s to 60s of the season we're watching. And I did not expect that. I kind of thought it'd be like someone young and like fresh. All the young people, they're out. And it's because the older, like it came with the wisdom of like how to survive and, how they needed to take care of their body before it led up to it. And like it just
Mm-hmm.
came with so much more wisdom. And I was like, oh, this is actually even that correlating to photography. It's like just because you're older doesn't mean your body can't do it. It just means like you're going to come with such a bigger well of wisdom for like how to prepare
Mm-hmm.
yourself better to do it instead of
When
just
I was
running
younger,
yourself
I treated my
dry.
body like shit. Like I joke often with my friends that like sort of were in the coming up in this business with me, that they all started around the same time. I'm like, do you remember when we used to go out to a club on a Friday night and we would shoot a wedding the next day? And then at the end of the wedding, we would come home, back up our stuff while we were pre-drinking and go out again. That is insane. Like that's
Wild.
legitimately insane. Like could not be me anymore. I was for just so many reasons. Um, but like obviously your body does change, and there are things that you are going to start noticing when you're not
Hmm.
22 anymore. But like I just kind of looked at it like you said, like I was 22 years old and I was in way worse shape than I am now because I wasn't like I was
You
drinking.
didn't care.
I would
Yeah.
literally drink coffee and Red Bull all day long at a wedding. And then I would eat bread the second that it landed on the table. Not that I don't eat the bread now, the second it lands on the table, but I'm like, that's the first thing that went in my stomach all
Hmm.
day after caffeine filled. And then no wonder you feel like crap on a Sunday every single time, right? So that, that sort of like mantra that you hear from burnt out photographers of like, oh, it's terrible. The brides are terrible. This is the thing I always hear. I don't know how you do that. The brides are terrible. It was so bad for me physically. Like my wife was going to kill me. I don't know why I
Hmm.
always assume it's a dude. My wife was going to kill me. And I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. I would have quit if I was you too, because it sounds like your business wasn't fun, wasn't
Yeah.
enjoyable. And instead of changing those things and saying, well, this is a good career that I'm enjoying, but I'm going to shift, I'm going to make some changes. You just said, hell no, I'm quitting, right? And
Yeah.
I actually can think of like one specific guy. He's a bartender at a restaurant that I went to like close to our condo. And he was like, oh, you're a wedding photographer. I can't believe that you do that. He's like, my brides were terrible. And he just had a laundry list of terrible bride stories.
Yeah.
And I, when people ask me like, what's a crazy story? I'm like, I don't know if it's probably sustainable that I actually have short-term memory because I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't hold on to that because
Yeah.
even if I do have like that was a crazy day, uh, I can still generally look at the positive side of what happened, whether I got great images out of it or, somebody was kind to me, or my second and I learned a lot, or whatever it is. Some days I call my mom at the end of most weddings. And some days I call my mom and she says, "How was today?" And I said, "Well, it was a really well-paying job for a Saturday." And if that's the best I've got, then that's kind of okay, right? But
Mm,
like at the very least it should pay you well. If it's not going to
yeah.
be fun and it's not going to be fulfilling and it's not going to be anything else, it's going to pay you pretty well. And we don't all get like the best days at our jobs. I worked in a
Yeah.
cubicle where literally I could hear somebody in the billing department like cutting off people's hydro every day. It was a nightmare. But like I was getting paid $17 an hour to do that job, right? So I think photographers do have a tendency to forget how good we have it. And if you have forgotten how good you have it, perhaps you don't have it that good and you need to take a look at like what it is that you're doing that you need to improve upon. Maybe you're not paying yourself enough. Maybe you can't charge anymore because your skill set hasn't matched that, your marketing efforts haven't matched that.
Mm,
Whatever it is, I think we do have a tendency to look outside of ourselves for the reason why we're not happy or why we're not successful. But the sooner you can get to the point where you believe that you're in control and you're running this show and that you are in control of all of your good and all of your bad days, it's like a total game changer.
yeah, even for myself, I had a couple I think in my last engagement session asked me like, "So, like, do you have any crazy stories?" And I was like, no." Like, I had one client in my whole career where they weren't super happy, but I had an associate. It was an associate shooting it, not me. So it wasn't even directly at me. I was like, "Nope, don't really have any." And maybe I don't know. I know people who have had crazy stories, like mother like
I
punched
remember
me
other
kind of thing, like
Yes, I remember other
crazy.
people's crazy stories. Like I've heard about like a photographer that had to break up a fist fight in the parking lot. Like I remember those stories. But I don't know. I also think it comes down to your marketing efforts. I really do.
Mhm.
I was just getting my hair done with a new stylist yesterday, and she said that she ends up getting some really like wild people in her chair. And like, thankfully, she's probably only with them for 3 hours or something like that. But she said, how do you avoid that? Because,
Mm.
brides, everybody always hears brides can be crazy, which, first of all, sexist as hell. The most annoying people I've ever had have been the grooms generally that are not involved in the planning, but then still have something to say. And I'm like, well, where
Yeah.
were you? Where were you for the last 6 months? And now you've got ideas. So that's funny. Or it's like in-laws, but it's hardly ever the bride. My brides are
Yeah.
delightful. But I said to the stylist, I said, I am so particular about what I share online when it comes to my personality, when it comes to my home life, when it
Mm.
comes to even the clients that I shoot. Like I've shot, NHL players' weddings that I don't share the photos of because I don't
Mm.
want the types of people that would be attracted to like a celebrity photographer, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not necessarily attracting just like normal, down to earth, lovely people anymore. You're attracting people
Yeah.
that want to convey a certain level of wealth or want to convey a certain aesthetic. And I want brides that are particular, of course. I want all clients that are particular. I want them to care about their photos and their wedding and their vision. But I want them to do it from a place that has like reason and
Yeah.
like logic also attached to it. So I don't really get people that come to me with visions of, oh, this is the photos that I want, and they're getting married in a barn. I'm like, that doesn't. It also doesn't happen to me anymore because I think I'm out of that price range. So
Yeah.
there's also that, right? Like you get a lot more of that when you charge $1,200 or something. But at this stage that I'm at with the portfolio I have, I don't really get a lot of I don't get a lot of crazy stuff. And if I do, I'm like, well, this is wild. Like this is a
Yeah.
wild day. We are having a wild time. And like, I don't know, I think I just have fun with it. I think that's it. It's just like I'm like, well, this is a crazy time. And the crazy
Yeah.
thing is if people are wild, they're wild every day. So if they're really wild on their wedding day, and I mean like insane, like sure, we've all probably had clients that have like undiagnosed like severe anxiety, and then they're drinking and they're doing drugs and they've got family members. Like I've seen a ton of insane stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm documenting what's in front of me. I'm doing the best job that I can do today. And I'm not going to change my effort based on how wild and crazy this day is.
Yeah.
I'm going to put in the same level of effort. I'm going to deliver the best that I can. And sometimes you have to have a few pep talks with yourself to be like, this work does not reflect your best effort or doesn't reflect your best work necessarily, but
But it's
some
not
things
your
truly are
fault.
out of control. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
design wedding days, right? Like I can do my best, but I'm not the one designing this whole shebang.
Yeah, on the bad wedding stories, I feel like I don't normally share like hot tea, but honestly, oh, I hate to say it, but I feel like when you have crazy wedding stories, it's normally a reflection of like also you. Like you said, it's like personal branding is really important. And what you
Mm-hmm.
put out there truly is the type of people you're gonna attract.
Yes.
I'm not saying if you're someone who's had like one bad story a year, that's fine. But if all of your clients are psycho, like I'm sorry, take a look at yourself. Like you might need to do some inner work, and I hate to say it,
Yes.
but your clients should
Okay,
not
so
all be psycho.
I have the, I think this is like the best story about this. Okay, so I had, and I think this also really helps to talk about the other thing that I really, really think is so important for photographers, which is like
Yeah.
staying in your own lane and not comparing your business to somebody else's business.
Mhm.
So there's a photographer in my area that does incredible work, like truly beautiful. Her work is very similar to mine, but she does always post like ultra luxury high end weddings. She
Mm.
posts all the NHL players' weddings. You know what I mean? She's like
Yeah.
very, very high end, very curated aesthetic. At one point, I had to tell my past assistant, please stop showing me her work. It's not helpful for me because we are in the same area. Like, showing me like Summer Grace's work by all means. We're not in the same area. We can take inspiration from each other's social
Yeah.
media and stuff, but I'm not comparing my work because our actual style is so different. That's really helpful, but like I think it's really easy for photographers to pay too much attention to the photographers in their own area code and try to
Yeah.
figure out what's everybody doing. And I was getting into a place like post COVID, I'm starting to feel like, have I peaked? Have I because I'm now taking less weddings, it feels weird to not be constantly run off my ass, Like, why am I not so crazy busy? Well, it was intentional. I increased all of my prices and I stopped taking 60 weddings a year. But mentally, when you're used to going at like this crazy speed, it feels foreign to not be doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing this other photographer. I'm thinking, is she getting all the inquiries that I'm getting? And anytime somebody ghosts me, my mind immediately goes to her. She's the one that's getting
Mm.
them. She's the one that's getting them. So we're at this wedding open house at a like high end luxury venue in our area where
Mm.
she and I are both preferred vendors. And I was standing near her table chatting with her and another vendor, and I spotted this bride that I had booked in 2019. And in 2020, she asked me to reschedule, and I said yes, we rescheduled. I had a whole process around this is such a convoluted story. I had a whole process around how I rescheduled clients. I let them reschedule if they were in a 3 to 6 month window. I didn't want people jumping the gun and being like, I need to reschedule a year out because they were all trying to like hoard the best dates. They
Yeah.
all wanted the next Saturday in September for the next year. And I'm like, I will literally go bankrupt. And that's actually
Yeah.
probably like the best education that I had in business sustainability was like treating my clients really well, but also having boundaries for myself and not just letting them run my show. So I had this bride that had booked me in 2019. She rescheduled one time. And then she tried to reschedule again for a year and a half out.
Mm.
And I was like, I think that this girl is pregnant. I just had a feeling that this girl was pregnant. And if she had just come right out and said, I'm pregnant, I would have rescheduled her, no problem. But she said, due to COVID, we'd like to reschedule a year and a half out. And I said, you know my policy. We've already done this one time. If you want to reschedule a year and a half out, you have to pay a rescheduling fee. And the rescheduling fee, I feel like was so reasonable. It was like
Oh,
$900
easy.
to push like a
A year.
$7,000. It was a $7,000 package. And I said, it's going to be $900, which is I thought so reasonable. And she said, no, we can't make that work. I spot this woman now years later. It's like a couple of years later at this same venue where I know she's getting married probably now in a few months with whoever her new photographer is, because she decided to
It's
cancel
like
her whole
6 years
booking,
later.
lose half her payment, so like lost $3,500 plus taxes with me, and just walk away because she didn't want to pay the 900. And I said to this other photographer, "Oh my gosh, that that is like my like crazy COVID bride that was so nasty to me and then told me she didn't want to pay that rescheduling fee." And this photographer said, "Oh, well, she's probably is one of my clients because that's all I ever have is crazy brides."
Mm.
And I was like, in that moment, I was cured of any jealousy that I had towards her, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that you feel that way. And I said to her, why do you feel like all of your brides are crazy? She said, I have no idea. They just all are. And now it's
Mm.
all I can see when I look at her work is, you're going to burn out from this, because this is, if you speak that way about your clients, and you believe that, and they truly are that way, because this photographer is not like, I don't think there's anything wrong with her. I think she's delightful personality wise, but whatever her marketing strategy has done for her has attracted all the
Mm.
people I try to push away.
Mm.
And now that photographer is not doing photography full time, as far as I'm aware. So it's kind of like easy to see it when you're out of it, but when I was in it and I had that like sort of jealousy moment, I was like, yeah, you'd really do attract a certain type of person. And I think it happens over time. If you are realizing though that you keep on getting these wild stories of person after person that is like giving you a 300-page Pinterest board saying we're recreating every single one of these photos, what are your boundaries like? What are your processes like? Sort of all of these things come into play. And I wish I could say it's something so simple as like, well, change your bio on Instagram and rewrite your bio on your website. Like, it's not, it's everything about how you portray
Mhm.
yourself, the type of work that you show, the amount of your personal life that you share or don't share, and also your communication style with your clients. Like, one of the things that I try not to do is text with people. I find there's too much of a familiarity there. We become too buddy, and so if I do need to push back on something, like, no, you can't reschedule your engagement session for the fourth time for no reason, it feels foreign. It feels not right. It feels like a bad thing, because
Mm.
now you're buds, and how could you possibly do that, right? So
Yeah.
it's sort of just, you have to figure out, it goes back to like, what are your values, what's important to you, how can you make every decision in your business with those values in mind. Does this feel fun? Is this creative? Is this profitable? Is this sustainable? And if you have sort of those values, and they don't all have to be the same, like maybe you don't really care about making a certain amount of money every year. Maybe you just want, um, a stable income, whatever that is, right? Everybody's values are different. Mine have always had finances tied to them, because that's, I think, the one thing that will probably keep most photographers in the business for longer, is if their money is right, then you get to keep doing the thing that you're enjoying doing.
Mhm. No, 100%. If you had
Do
one.
you enjoy, like, do you like, I'm turning this around on you
No,
now,
go
I'm the
for it.
interviewer, but
Hey, I don't even
do you
care.
are you financially motivated? Like, I know a lot of people are not. And so sometimes when I speak about this, they're like, this doesn't land for me because I just don't care. But the one thing that I've realized is that people that were, and I actually don't know like your background or anything, but people that were born very comfortably financially, or raised in a very comfortable financial situation, they always say, well, I don't really care about money. And I'm like,
Mm.
what's that like? That must be so weird. And my family
Yeah.
was comfortable, but like, I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth by any means. Like, my
Yeah.
parents, when I first told them how much money I was making when I was like 23, they were like, are you a drug dealer? Like, are you robbing banks? What's going on?
Yeah.
Because it is foreign to not be taking a paycheck for like $60,000 a year, right? That's what I think a lot of my friends' parents all were doing.
Yeah. No, so I was raised in the South. My parents both work for the state, so,
Okay.
we just, like, maybe, like, middle, lower middle class, middle,
Yeah.
had a nice home, but it was in Georgia, so, like, you can have, like, three-story home with 5 bedrooms for, like, $100,000 back then or
It's
less.
incredible. Yeah.
So, yeah, like, different when it comes down to, like, the financial side of it. Was a little stressful growing up. Also could have just been personality type of my father, like, but I do think it was
Yeah.
stressful. They had some debt, had medical issues, struggled with infertility, so that cost a lot back then.
Yeah.
I think I was a triplet. I was the only one that, was born, obviously. And so
Wow.
there was a lot of like medical things I didn't know about, recessions. So, anyways, yeah, a little stressful growing up, but was not, could have been way worse.
Hmm.
But with that, I feel like came into like kind of how I have my life mantra, which is I want to live to work. I don't want to work to live. I don't want to get into a position where I feel so obligated to work to like have to pay my basic survival means. And if that takes 10 years to feel like fully accomplished in that sense, that's fine with me. But like that's my
Hmm.
goal of what I want to get to, of
Yeah.
whether that be, in my opinion, mostly passive income things that are providing
Hmm.
enough to where, like, hey, even if I didn't book a wedding for 4 months, I'm fine. You know what I mean? Things
Yeah.
like that. Like, that's something I'm really passionate about because I've seen my parents work so hard just to get by. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably maybe 70% of America or more, maybe of the world. It's you have to clock in. You have to clock into that 9 to 5. And I think a lot of photographers have to clock in too, to like a,
Hmm.
who knows, like an 8 to 8. A lot of us are working more than the average 9 to 5.
100%.
And we're clocking in. And it's always that joke of like, you become a self employed person to work like 24 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
I
You
don't,
give up the 9 to 5 to work
yes,
like 24/7 or
that is
whatever the
not a
saying
badge
is.
of honor.
I'm
You
like,
should
that
not
sounds
feel that
awful, in
way.
fact. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
know what? I did that for a number of years, right? Like I said, I did do that, and I I can't say it was a bad idea because I was
Yeah.
able to do it and I didn't burn out. I, was 22 years old. It also helped
There's a
that my
season where you
my
need to grind.
yeah, exactly. And it was great that my husband was in the same space. All of my friends were self-employed, and I think that happened, like
Mm.
that was intentional. I started to lose some of the friends that were working 9 to 5s. Like they're still my friends. It's not like we're no longer friends, but the people that I spent my day to day with were all people that were building something themselves. So our social time was spent on our laptops,
Yeah.
whether it's a glass of wine and we're all watching a show, but we're on our computers and we're all excited about that. And that's okay. And I still have those times and I still have those friendships where if we're going to hang out, let's just hang out and do some work together. And I think that's fine. It's part of what makes like photography conferences fun, right? Because you
Mhm.
have those like, these are my work friends. These people truly get me and they understand me, but it shouldn't last forever.
Yeah.
If you have to do that until you're 30 years in or 10 years, like I think even 10 years in is sort of the marker where if what you're doing is working. Have you started to build up some wealth? Have you started
Mhm.
to build up some of that passive income? Have you started to do those things? I think that's where you start to see um, like the fruits of all of that, you know I hate to use the word, but hustle, right? And the
Yeah.
hustle, like, it can suck, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's just, I don't want to ever feel like I
You don't wanna be like a
sacrificed the
slave.
life. Yeah, I don't want to have sacrificed the real living, right, for the job. And that's what I was doing when I think about, the number of cottage weekends that I missed. Also, cottage, I realize is so foreign for people that are not in basically Ontario, like a lake house. That's what
Yeah.
I think that's a normal thing, right? But uh my family has always, it's nothing crazy, and we're not like, it's not like a celebrity lake house or something like that. But it is family time spent outdoors, and it's such a gift. My aunt and uncle have had this cottage as long as I've been alive, longer. And now it's like the next generation of my family there, my
Yeah.
cousins, and they're even getting older now. And I just was seeing them getting older, and I'm like, I only have a few more years, or these kids still want to go paddleboarding with me. And I only
Yeah.
have like a few more years where these kids actually want to hang out with me and want to build a campfire with me. So I got to do this while I can. And instead, I was working triple wedding weekends. And like, I will say there is something very, very powerful about turning away the kind of money that comes with doing 3 weddings in a weekend, because
Yeah.
that is no joke. Like, that's potentially My average booking is about $7,000 Canadian, but that's like $21,000 on a weekend. And you have to say no to that really far out.
Yeah.
So, like, not to hold it over my family's head of like, this is how important you are to me, but that is how important that value is to me. Like that sort of, you know, that vision that I have for my life is to spend time with my family. And I'm never going to look back and say, I wish I had that 21 grand, because
Mhm.
truthfully, I would have that money and I would have spent it on something stupid because I wasn't happy or fulfilled in my life. Right. So
Yeah.
if you're happy and fulfilled, then you can save your money and you can spend it on more important things. But when you are sad, at least that's how I was just spending money on all kinds of stupid, stupid stuff. I was
Mm.
at like the Home Sense, like our home goods store. I was there like every day. So I was just like miserable trying to fill this void of all I do is work and go for wine with my girlfriends, and that's all I was doing, And I
Mm.
was happy, of course, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like my life was full.
Yeah.
There was definitely no sustainability in that.
So what would you say helps you make that transition outside of probably like you've hinted at, but we can actually talk about it for real kind of to close this out is like profitability and raising your prices and things that go
Mhm.
into kind of leaving that like average market like grind, you know? What would you say was like a big shift you took post 2020 that helped you take less? Was it mostly in the pricing or was it in what mindset? Like what was it? I mean, it could be in everything, but what would you say was like
Yeah.
the big thing for you that helped you focus on having a more profitable business?
Pricing was a huge thing. And I'll be honest, it was so scary. If you've ever seen, Reddit threads or Facebook threads where somebody says, I increased my prices and now it's crickets,
Yeah.
that is a very scary feeling. And the one thing that I will say that I've always had is like a fire under my ass to not fail. Like I said, I couldn't quit doing school because I like to see things through. And I think that's how I treated this was I raised all of my prices pretty much overnight by $1,500, which is not a
Hmm.
small amount. But the great thing in weddings is that these people probably don't know what my previous pricing was.
Hmm.
So as long as it stands up to the portfolio that I have and the image that I have and the reviews and the positive feedback and all of that, if it stands up and your market is built for it, and only you will know, then I say go for it. And if the inquiries aren't coming in or they're not converting, that's a sales issue and that's a marketing issue. And those are solvable problems,
Mhm.
right? Like to me, I'm like everything is figure outable. I just have to figure out what the issue is first. So for me, it was that I needed a better website. So I had previously built my website on WordPress like years and years ago, and I just left it the same.
Hmm.
And I decided that I was going to switch over to Focal, which is like a website company specifically for photographers. And their main premise is to build websites that convert sales and aren't just like pretty to look at. That's a nice portfolio. On to the next one. I'm going to go look at 12 of these other ones and then I'm going to go. It's built with like the sales funnel in mind. So that was a huge thing for me. Curating my portfolio was another huge one, like getting rid of anything that didn't stand up to that new pricing and having less photos. That's the other thing I
Hmm.
think a lot of photographers do wrong when they're trying to get from the mid level into, and I would not call what I'm in the luxury range by any means, but like the higher, I'm not in that like 80% market. I would say
Yeah.
it's like the top 20, maybe top 20 or 30% market. I'm definitely the most expensive photographer in my city. But our city is so close to Toronto that like I'm competing with a huge, huge market.
Hmm.
Um, but curating your portfolio is so important and just getting rid of anything that's not like a hell yeah. If the
Yeah.
photo doesn't make you excited, and it can't be an emotionally excited thing because that's the other thing that I've realized is really a challenge for a lot of photographers. We like our photos because that was such a nice client, or we had such a
Hmm.
nice day that day, or that was the first time that I used that camera and I felt like I really nailed it. Whatever the reason is, we have so many hilarious reasons why we keep things in our portfolio. But the reasons why your photos should be in your portfolio is, does it set the vibe of like the aesthetic you want to provide your clients? Does it show the venues that you want to work at? I am like very fortunate to be a preferred vendor at every venue in our area,
Mm,
which was so hard. So hard. But I now realize that marketing the venue is like a huge benefit to attracting your ideal client. Because if you want to work at those venues, they've already attracted your client. Now you just have
yeah,
to attract theirs, right? So if you want to keep working at these same venues and that's, that the price point that they're charging at those venues would align those people with your new
yeah,
pricing, then market that venue a bit better. Blog, I know it sounds insane, but blog, it's like incredible for your SEO and just for people finding you and wanting to really connect with you. Like if you're getting married at a venue, what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to look up on Instagram or TikTok or Google, you're going to look up your venue and see wedding photos at it. And if you find a
yeah.
photographer that fits the style and the price point and everything that you're looking for, even if it's not the price point, you might go outside of it because they've shot at your venue and they know it so well. That just feels like easy mode to me. But so many
Mhm.
photographers overlook that. Um, Typically, we're the second person that gets hired on a wedding day after a wedding venue. So that would be where I would go, right? That would be where I would start. But I think it's a mindset thing. It's knowing that you can do it. You've done it before. You've figured it out. You went from charging $0 to 500 or 1,000 or whatever it was. What got you from that to that? Well, now you just have to replicate that, but for a
Mhm.
different market. Um, it really 100% of it comes down to mindset, and then the skill set and all of that just follows. But if you believe that you can, and tell your friends, tell your loved ones that you're nervous and you're working on it. They're going to hype you up. They're going to tell
Yeah.
you, you're amazing. You're so talented. You can do this. Or hire a mentor, right? Summer, I just saw that you opened up your mentorship. Wow.
Yes.
It'd be a great
Yes.
opportunity, right? Like hire somebody that has done this and knows how to do it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. When I first was starting, I didn't no one told me to, like, no I didn't you don't know what you don't know, and when you first start in the wedding industry, you really don't know anything, or at least I didn't.
No,
Maybe some people know
no.
things. Maybe they were, like, helped a planner or something, but
But even
man,
still, they know what that person knew. Like I knew what Taylor knew, which
yeah.
I then learned was not everything that there was to know.
No, yeah, I knew literally nothing, because I went full-time at, like, 19, so I knew nothing, and this venue popped up, and this venue now is one of the most successful in Oregon. It's like the Lake Como of Oregon,
Oh my
but when
gosh,
it first
incredible.
started, I just was like, "Hey," I just shot my shot just blindly. No one knew who I was. I didn't have this large following. Like, I was just like, "Hey, I would love to, like, take some elopement photos here for my elopement client because, like, you know, they didn't have a venue and we were just gonna take them in nature, but your place is cool. Could we do them there instead?" I wasn't offering to pay. No one was offering to pay. I was just like, "We should all come together and, like, I'm not making that much. Let's just, like, give this couple a good experience." They're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, sure, it's unlocked. Just go." They were, like, out of town, and I was like,
No.
"Okay." And I took these
That's so
photos.
funny.
These photos changed my life. I took these photos and I sent them to them and they posted them, and now they're super successful and very expensive, and even to the point that the owner wanted me to shoot her wedding, but COVID ended
Oh
up
my gosh.
affecting it, and it was supposed to be my first international wedding, and it was like a 3-day wedding in, San Miguel de Allende? It was gonna be freaking sick, and COVID ended up canceling it, so I ended up shooting for a new venue. They were opening in San Francisco instead. But all of this to say, just one little moment of shooting my shot and literally basically changed my career. And I was like, wow, why didn't I network with venues sooner? Because it wasn't even on purpose. I wasn't trying
Yeah.
to just like get them to promote me. I was just like, hey, can I shoot here? And they're like, yeah. And I
You're
did
just
it.
looking for a cool location, right?
Yeah.
But Summer,
It's
the thing is,
crazy.
most photographers don't do that, right? This is the one thing that I have realized with, like, I've worked with newer photographers from mentorship or
Mm-hmm.
speaking to them, when I've spoken at conferences. And the thing that I realize is that a lot of photographers, when they get started, are keeping their circle very small. They
Mm-hmm.
photograph their friends and family.
Yeah.
Um, they're not going out and creating work like that for themselves. It's a huge blind spot, I think, in photographers. It just
It's
takes like
fear.
little bit more effort. And I feel like I sound like a jerk when I say it, but I'm like, just try like 30% harder than you're currently
Yeah.
trying, because so many photographers do not have the time, do not have the effort, do not have the willpower. And if all you have that's different is the willpower and a little bit of audacity to be like Summer and reach out to somebody and be like, hey, can I use this space? You're assuming they're going to say no. And they say, yeah, go on over. The door's unlocked. Like, it really is that simple. It's actually funny you say shoot your shot. Like, to plug my own podcast, I have a podcast called the Shoot Your Shot podcast, and it's literally based on that premise, which is like, just go ahead, like just give it
Yeah.
a try. Just put yourself out there, see what happens. Whether you're trying to get into the wedding space or you're trying to get into a certain venue as a preferred vendor, the only way that I got onto the preferred vendor list was by asking. No one
Yeah.
ever came to me. Actually, I think one venue came to me, but that was after I was already on a preferred list at so many places that I was like, whatever. But I asked the same venue over and over and over again. And it wasn't until they wanted to print my image in a magazine and they wanted to use it as like a full page spread. And I was like, sure, of course. Now we're negotiating. Now, if you want
Yeah.
to use my image, now I want to be a preferred vendor. And it felt so nervy of me to do that. And it felt so scary. But like that alone has made me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like
Oh,
literally that.
yes.
Just me being like, I just tried and I just said, can I please? Can I please? Can I please? And I just annoyed the shit out of them until they said yes. But also, your work has to back it up, right? Your reviews have to be there. They have to know
Mhm.
that when you've shot at their venues, the clients really had a nice experience. You made it fun for the concierge that was working with you that day, and
Yeah.
you know, were kind to work with. It's all of it. It's I wish that I could ever just say, oh, it's so simple. It's not. It's like one of the hardest jobs in the
Yeah.
world, but I shouldn't say that. There's certainly harder, but it can be
Yes.
incredibly challenging and also incredibly rewarding. You just have to put in like a little bit more effort.
I did a just story time because you said that you used to do triple headers. I have said for the past few years, like, I'll never do a double or triple ever really because they just sound horrible. But last year,
It's physically and mentally exhausting. That's
well,
like the thing. It's like so exhausting.
like you said, when it was like hard to say no to them last year, I did not know I was going to be pregnant, and I booked a double header because it was at this venue that we're talking about. It was
Okay.
both weddings were at the same venue, and they were both 2-day packages. So I thought, you know what, I can do that. And in hindsight, like I could do it again. Honestly, I would. To
Yeah.
make over 20 grand in one weekend, I would much prefer to like 3 different weekends of traveling for a similar price. You know, so
That comes down to like choose your hard. Like
yeah.
I don't want to do a double header, but yeah, for $20,000 in a weekend, that's
Well,
you would be crazy to not, right?
and they were both 2-day packages, so the, like, rehearsal dinners were my break, and honestly, rehearsal dinners are so chill, so it was fine, but yeah, they were both at that same venue, so just to say, like, this venue from shooting my shot and just trying to take that risk and be like, "Hey," like, just, like, blind confidence. I feel like if you don't have it, literally just fake it till you make it, like, just
Yeah.
believe that good things will happen to you. I sound like I'm, like, a manifestation person, but honestly, if you just, like,
Oh,
I
I'm
need to believe in my
100% a manifestation person. I started saying that I'm lucky, and now all of a sudden I'm like literally the luckiest person in the world, I feel like you
Genuinely,
just
I
have to
need more
start believing
confidence
that.
now like I did when I first started because I was, like, so almost overconfident. I'm like, look back at some of my galleries, I'm like, "Summer, what were you doing?" But I believed in myself and other people believed in me too because I did, you know? And
Yes.
it will happen. So even if you don't know, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this," like, genuinely believe in yourself. That is just one story of that venue. Like, I've booked so much work there because of this mutually beneficial, like, incredible relationship I was able to build with
Mhm.
them from taking from just sending one stupid DM of like, "Hey, your venue looks cool. Could I take some pics here?" Like, what?
So
You
funny.
know? Just do it, guys.
I know, and honestly, like people go to war, you know.
It's not that
people go to
deep.
people go to war. Like you could literally be in the Marines, or you could send a DM. It's
I always tell people, I'm
it's
like,
not
"What's
that
the
deep.
worst that happens? They unfollow you?" Like, "Okay, whatever. You don't need them."
Yeah. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think as long as you are truly genuine in your ask, and you know you're not doing anything harmful, I think there's you have nothing to lose. You have really
Mhm.
nothing to lose. Perhaps a bruised ego. If the person comes back and is nasty, that says more about them than it does about you. So I sounded very Canadian there with my about, but I think, you know, as long as you're kind, no one's ever going to be crappy to you. I
Well,
get,
yeah.
and you
And we're
probably
not
get them
telling
all
you
the
to,
time,
like,
Summer. Like
abuse
you probably,
venues,
of course
we're
not.
yeah.
You
Ju
probably get tons of DMs or emails every day of people asking to like second shoot for you or
Yeah.
assist for you or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And those are really hard for me because I'm out here preaching that that's what you should be
Just shoot your
doing is
shot,
reaching.
yeah.
Yeah, just shoot your shot. And then I can't say yes to everybody. There would be like 50 people behind me doing behind the scenes right now if I had hired them all. But I think there's a way to go about it that is more effective than others, right? Figure out how they generally like to communicate. If they,
Yeah.
have proven on their social media that they don't like to respond to DMs, and find out their email address and actually go to their email. The one thing I will say, don't go through somebody's contact form unless you have a real good reason why you should. Because when we get a contact form email, I'm assuming it's an inquiry. And when I open it excited and it's somebody looking for an unpaid internship, like,
Yeah.
don't do that to me. That makes my heart hurt. That's just a very specific aside. But offer something great. The last assistant that I hired that worked with me in person, I've hired somebody since that's overseas, but the last person that worked for me in person, she reached out and she said that she wanted to learn from me, which, at the time I didn't have a mentorship program or anything like that. She said, I want to learn from you. She found something similar that we had in common. We both went to the same university for roughly the
Mm.
same program. And she, compliment sandwich, told me specific things that she liked. So made it clear she had actually
Yeah.
checked out my work, actually looked at my website, my Instagram. And then she said, I'm wondering if it would be okay for me to come along, shoot some behind the scenes, and make you reels for free.
Mm.
And you just teach me some stuff. And I'm like, that's a good offer.
Yeah.
That felt borderline too good of an offer for me to be accepting from her because
Yeah.
that's like, you're just going to do marketing for me for free. And it worked out. I think it worked out quite well. She now has a very profitable photography business, and
Mm.
she has graduated out from working for me, but it got me a lot of the behind the scenes that I currently still use. A ton of the reels that I've made over the years that have done really well came from that. All of that to say, figure out what you're offering somebody instead of just asking. If you're asking somebody for something, offer something, whether it be payment, like, hey, Summer, I want to, buy you a coffee virtually. Maybe Summer has that as an option that you can just buy, an hour of her time to like pick her brain.
Mhm.
But most people that are at the level that you're hoping to learn from do not have the time or the capacity to just offer you free services, especially if they're in the same area as you. Like, we are all still working photographers that are hoping to not, I don't
Yeah.
want to create 30 new competitors for me in this space that are all very good at doing the same thing that I'm doing, right? That's not what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah.
But figure out what you're offering somebody, whether it be financial or some kind of in-kind services, whatever that may be. Like, maybe you're really good at writing, you want to write some blogs for them, whatever. See what
Yeah.
they need.
And if you're listening to this and you're newer and you've probably heard like, "Oh, go second shoot for people to get your experience." This popped into my mind. I feel like it's worth sharing. For me in my career today, if someone messages me asking to second shoot, I'm most likely going to say no because I am so sorry. But if you are new, you are not qualified to be second shooting
No.
with the caliber of weddings I'm doing in my career now.
Yeah.
You should maybe hit up someone else that's maybe newer in the average wedding market, but you're a liability to come shoot a wedding with
Yes.
me. And
And
so
that's scary because it's not just like that your work could be bad. You could say the wrong thing. You could do the wrong thing. We have to anticipate moments so much further in advance than when
I
they
don't have the
happen.
brain space to worry about you, you know?
No, like,
It's
you
not the
need to
time
like
to learn.
learn from that person at a workshop. And if that person that you want to work with sees that you're really great in person and learns that, then maybe you ask them. But it's not a DM, it's not a cold,
Mhm.
hey, I'd love to second for you. Like, it will never happen. And we'll
And
never hire somebody that way.
it sounds so harsh to say that because I think that's common advice is like, "Go second shoot, like, that's how you get experience." And maybe
Hmm.
I've told people I've mentored, like, "Go try and second or whatever, or, just get experience shooting being involved
Hmm.
in a wedding." But honestly, the advice I give now is, like, offer to, like, carry someone's bag or film BTS or load their film, like, don't
Yes.
ask to just, like, shoot with them. Maybe ask if you can bring a camera so that you could try if there's free time. But at the end of
Hmm.
the day, like, offer something that's truly valuable because me teaching you on a wedding day I have booked with a client that has high demands, that is not valuable to me. That is only
No.
valuable to you. and that is not a mutually beneficial relationship.
No,
So,
no.
yeah, when you shoot your
I
shot,
actually,
like,
there's a
shoot your shot, like,
photographer.
generously, you know?
Yes, yes. And understand how much you're asking for from that photographer, because it is a lot of mental energy for us to, is this an educational experience for you to learn? If that's what you're looking for, then it can't be a paid position.
It
It
shouldn't be
can't
during
be
a
some,
wedding day.
it can't be on someone's wedding where they've paid me for a second photographer. And then you'll get people saying, "Well, can I third shoot for you?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not bringing a paparazzi squad with me."
Mm,
So, like you said, offering to come and do BTS, maybe be like the unpaid content creator for the day. That's valuable. I'll take
mhm.
that. Um, Someone that I can trust is going to show up looking nice, presentable, speaking well, and knowing when to not speak, knowing when to, there's a lot of cues there that are social.
Mhm.
When I first started out, I would hire my friends to second shoot for me because they were like graphic designers or interior designers, and I could put the camera on, aperture priority, and they would do an incredible job because they had an eye and they were really talented. But I
Yeah.
also knew that they were going to be smart and they were going to say the right thing, and they weren't going to like, put their foot in their mouth, right? There's a lot of things that are sensitive around weddings and people's relationships and their families
Yeah.
that, like, I once had a second photographer tell a very curvy bride that her dress was really flattering on her. And he didn't think there was anything wrong with that. But I'm like, well, you're suggesting that her body needed to be flattered. And that
Mm,
and that to me felt so wrong. And that's all I could ever picture was like, this guy said that. So what's coming next? Like he was like,
yeah.
"Oh, it's like very flattering for your figure." And I'm like, she's already insecure right now. She's already thinking about her body and how she's showing up in this wedding day and in this wedding dress. And for you to point that out, it made me very angry. And I just never hired him again.
Mm,
And it's just one of those things that you realize a wedding day is too big of a day for me to test run somebody. So you can come and hang out at an engagement session and I'll see how you do there. But no one's ever going to just randomly be picked out of Instagram and brought into a wedding day. Not at this level, but perhaps you go to a photographer that's not
yeah.
fully booked or whatever.
And maybe in the, like, more maybe average market, you find someone and you're offering to do it for free, and they're, like, freaking stoked because their clients aren't paying for second shooters or they're maybe not
Yeah.
included. For me, it's a team. Like, I
Yes.
could not do this alone anymore, so I can't have a second shooter who's learning because my second shooter is as important as I am. I'm posting their
Yeah.
images, my second shooter being my husband, but I'm sharing
Yes.
their
Well, and
images.
especially
They
that
are
you shoot
one.
film, like there's downtime in reloading film, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a huge thing. There's not a lot of downtime. I don't shoot a ton of film. And if I do, um, I would love another second. Typically what I do is I'm like, okay, you go shoot digital now. I'm going to load
Yeah.
this because I like
Yes.
to load my own film. I'm like, you go do something creative with them. They're excited. They're like, this is my opportunity to
Yeah.
shine and be like the lead today, right? While I'm going to go and load this and then I'm going to get ready. But there is
Yeah.
downtime involved. So you need to be able to trust that they can step into your
Like,
role.
there's moments even one time we had a third where I did not even with the third, I did not see details for the reception. I did not see cocktail hour at all. Didn't see it, and that is crazy for anyone listening. I did not see cocktail hour in any capacity because there was other obligations I had, even with a team of 3
Yeah.
people. And so that's just like my team has to be able to execute completely on their own. So, anyways, that's not me tooting my own horn, but that is, I feel like we literally went into a tangent. But good advice for photographers starting out. Like, shoot your shot and just like be nice about it and
Try
offer
really
things
hard.
that are unique, maybe. Offer to, yeah, carry some packs, load some film, content. I would love content. I just like, I never, I I think for the past like 6 weddings in my career, have not taken a single video on my phone because I'm so busy. I don't have time to think about it. And I
Yeah.
love seeing all the wedding photographer content creators think it's awesome that you remember to get the footage. I genuinely don't have time. I don't know if it's the
Yeah.
type of weddings I'm shooting, the type of style, and the way I shoot, but praise
Hmm.
God that Jake got some sneaky little videos of me last time because it
Yeah.
really helped. I was able to finally post some reels. And I know some people are like, no, just take the video. And I'm like, no, I can't just take the video because I will miss shots just taking the video.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
it is worth it to have maybe an assistant or someone else that's responsible for that kind of thing. Because maybe that's not the best advice to give everyone. Like, no, just take the videos. It'll help your social media. Well, what about your client who like needs you to take some photos? Like, we're
Right.
photographers,
Right.
guys.
100%. I know. I do think about that a lot. Like how much our own content creation and marketing can get in the way of our client experience, because that is
Mhm.
not something that I ever want. The thing that I notice it the most on is with hair and makeup teams. When they
Mm.
finish hair and makeup, and then they have to get all of their videos, which I totally understand, because sometimes they can't rely on photographers to actually deliver. We're
Mhm.
not taking, like, I'm not taking a look down, now look up. Like, I'm not taking a 360 of their head. That's not in my MO.
Yeah.
So I understand that they have to make their own content, but that is a thing I wish that they had their own assistant that was doing it while they are
Like, doing
actually
it.
doing it, because generally at the end of hair and makeup being finished, we're already running behind. Almost every time we're running behind, and the bride still needs to eat something quickly, or so and so needs to go and find their undergarments or whatever it is. Like, there's a usually a little bit of a rush and an urgency, and I'm like, and now we're going to spend 10 minutes that we don't have so that you can get your content. And I will never tell them to not do it. It's not my place. If the client is okay with spending the time, then I'm okay with obviously waiting, and we'll sacrifice whatever has to be sacrificed. But that is one of those spaces that I'm like, this is for your marketing and this is not for the betterment of your client. Because if you were
Yeah.
concerned only about your client right now, you would be saying, do we have time for this? Is this okay to
Yeah.
do? Like, is there space for this? And I'm sure photographers and videographers are just as bad for, oh, we have to make this little, thing or whatever. I think that now I've just started adding in buffer time for
Mhm.
either my clients to want to make content. Like, some of my clients are wanting to make TikToks or whatever during their wedding getting ready portion of the
Yeah.
day. That's 20 minutes I got to pull out now. Like, that I'm not really going to be taking photos during this time, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually a new thing
I've
that
had that
over the
too.
past couple of years that I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to start putting this into the timeline. If you guys you want to do a full transition video, okay.
Yeah, that takes time.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
take time. But I try to hold my phone like while I'm shooting. It's so hard. I think mentally it's harder for me than actually physically doing it. I think it's just I want to be 100% thinking about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And if I have to hold my phone, it's not as good. I also think that BTS is going to be better if you're actually in it instead of just holding the phone. So
Yes.
truly, yeah, if you're thinking, how do I get into weddings? Maybe Summer and I have just figured out.
Yes, you offer to come
Maybe
take
we've
some
just figured out.
BTS of us.
Yes, offer the BTS because
I
it
would
truly
bring
is so
that.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you got
Yeah,
some
that would be
videos for the
incredible.
client too, like, that's cool for the client too. You know what I mean? Like, say you got some videos without me in it, that's dope. If the videos are good, the client gets, like, a free content creator. You know what I mean?
I send whenever I do have that, and my clients clearly like social media, or even if they just want the memories, if they didn't have a videographer, I'll
Yeah.
just pop them into a Google Drive. That's a hard thing for me because I'm like, oh, so I have to listen through all of this footage now to make sure that
Make sure
nobody's
I don't say
yapping in
anything
the back.
stupid.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything dumb of like, this is the most stressful day. But I think it's a nice little added bonus for them if they didn't hire have you been getting a lot of content creators at your weddings?
No, I had one at a wedding last year, and it was cool because she shared. I don't know if all content creators do this, but she shared the whole thing with the vendors as well, and I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
this is
no, that's not
great."
normal. That's incredible though.
Well, they should. That's such good marketing for them as well. If
Yeah,
I'm like, "Oh my god, I just got all this cool BTS that I can use as well." Like, we share the photos, so why wouldn't we get their
you're so right.
videos?
Yeah, it's very, very true.
Like, if we share
Hmm.
all of our photos with the vendor team, why wouldn't content creators share all their videos with the vendor team?
That's a very good question. I had never thought of that one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, I think it's
Interesting.
100% fair.
Especially like, of
I
course,
would
like, we should be
expect
giving
it.
credit and like either
Yeah.
doing a collab post or something with them if you're using it. But like, yeah, I would agree if we're going to be sharing those photos and I will share the photos with content creators too if they wanted to
Yeah.
pop them into a reel as like, here's, the moment versus the photos, whatever. Sometimes they like to do that, but it has been happening a lot more frequently. It's something that I'm considering adding in myself because I'd rather have someone there that's doing it, that's trained to do it, rather
Yeah.
than someone who's maybe not been to a lot of weddings that's now doing it or hasn't been around photo and video teams. It's not as problematic for me as it is for videographers because
They're getting similar
they
shots.
and they mess up audio a lot of the time, right? Because they'll be like,
Uh,
oh, yes, I love that. Like during, and I used to do this as a newer photographer. My friend Tim, that I share my studio with, he's a videographer that I work with often. And he thankfully was just honest with me and was like, I need you to stop talking during these
oh
moments, right?
shoot.
Because I wasn't thinking about it. I was interacting with my clients the way I typically would when video is not there. And I don't know if I was thinking like a lapel mic wouldn't pick me up or whatever it was, but I would be reacting, or I would jump in and be like, yep, that was great. I would jump in sooner than
Mm.
I needed to at the end of a moment. And now I've learned to like hold back and wait. Um, but content creators don't know that. And that's like a spot that's going to, people are going to have a little bit of trouble with each other.
Also, for all of you YouTube folks, me and Lindsay have been talking for an hour and 20 minutes. My camera is toast.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, that's so funny. Well, we should wrap up then
we'll wrap
because
it
we
up
need to see you.
anyways.
We
Um,
were getting to the end. I feel like
we were
we've yapped as much as we can yap.
I know. Honestly, I'm like, there's no reason to pop another battery in. We'll just wrap it up. So you probably don't see me right now. I'll just pop up a photo of myself and I'll wrap it up. Lindsay, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone? And also, when I say all you YouTube folks, there's not that many of you anyway, so who really cares? But if you're listening to this and you would like to go watch this on YouTube, I do post every podcast on YouTube. So go ahead and head on over there. It's a fun time. And it's sometimes just cool. I love putting like YouTube videos on in the background of my house, you know? So
100%.
anyways, go subscribe on YouTube. That would mean the world. But Lindsay, real quick for anyone audio listening, go ahead and tell them where they can find you, what you're up to, maybe where you're going to be. I know you guys travel a lot for conferences and stuff. So if you're going anything cool, you might as well tell people where they can meet you in person. But tell me all the things.
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm L Coulter Photo. So my last name is Coulter. If you type in L Coulter Photo, hopefully that just pops right up for you. My website's lindsaycoulterphoto.com. I have a few, but that's sort of the main one if you want to see some of my wedding work. And yeah, I do have a course. It's called Better Than Booked for anyone who's interested in growing their business. But I also know that summer has some incredible resources. So make sure I'm going to plug back to you if you're interested in mentorship that you go to Summer for mentorship because I think that she has a wealth of knowledge. And where are you going to find me? You know what? We're like getting out of conference season at the moment, which I'm kind of grateful for. I really enjoy just actually like shooting and getting into my clients' worlds a little bit right now. But I will be at Way Up North in the fall.
Cool.
I'm going to be there, and that's in Stockholm. So that'll be fun. If you haven't been to a Way Up North, it's incredible. It's so cool. If you like summer's vibe, you're gonna love Way Up North. Like the images of the photographers that speak at it are just like peak cool, to be honest. So Way Up North is in a different European city every spring and fall, and this fall it's in Stockholm. So that's where I will be. You can come and meet me there. And I will always probably be at WPPI as long as the American government keeps letting Canadians in. I'll keep coming down to Vegas. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell. But follow along on Instagram, and that's usually where I post things whenever I'm actually heading out to go do something.
Yeah. And if you like podcasts, go listen to our podcast.
Yes, if you like podcasts, I mean, you're
If you're
here.
listening to this still, you may as well go check it out.
Yeah, so we're the Shoot Your Shot podcast. We have YouTube as well. I do that with my friend Tim that I was just talking about, the videographer. He's also a photographer, and we yap about all sort of like current things photography. We talk about, current events, news. We interview other photographers. And Summer, we have to have you on. That would be so much fun. We'll
Oh,
do
yes.
a crossover.
Let's do it. That'd be so fun.
But we're also all of the places that you find podcasts.
So fun. Well, it was such a blast having you on. I feel so bad for everyone that's just looking at nothing of me, but this was
You
a
look
joy.
beautiful.
Thank you. My who knows what'll be on the YouTube right now. Jake will have some editing to do. But for everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this long episode because honestly, I really love how long some of the guest interviews go. Like, I also just appreciate that you were willing to spend this amount of time giving all of us such a fun conversation. So if you enjoyed this episode, why don't you go ahead, share it with a friend, leave a review. That would mean the world. And if you aren't already a summer school member, you might be thinking, hey, I'm listening to summer school. Well, there is more. Summer school is a online community now. It is $40 a month. Think of it kind of like a Patreon on steroids, where you can get involved, get engaged, and learn from educators all over the world. So if you want some sort of cheaper education, this is truly packed with so much value. There's freebies. You can get my pricing guide for free. There's a help board where you can get some work booked, and there's like 100 members. So people from all over the world already. It just launched 3 months ago. So go join us. Can't wait to see you in there. And I will catch you guys next week. Bye, everyone.